General Kimura Heitaro stands in his temporary command post outside Mandalay, watching British forces systematically advance through the ancient capital of Burma. It's March 20th, 1945, and the sight before him represents the collapse of everything Japanese strategy in Burma was designed to prevent. British 14th Army, supported by Indian divisions and Burmese irregulars, is methodically clearing Japanese defensive positions with combined arms tactics that demonstrate professional competence Japanese intelligence never predicted. The reports streaming into Kimura's headquarters tell an impossible story. British forces are conducting urban warfare with sophistication that exceeds Japanese capabilities, coordinating artillery and air support with precision that German advisors never achieved, employing armor in built-up areas with effectiveness that Japanese anti-tank doctrine cannot counter. The ancient pagodas and colonial buildings of Mandalay are falling to British assault teams that fight with tactical competence Japanese planning assumed they lacked. How are they coordinating their attack so effectively? Kimura asks his chief of staff, Colonel Nishida. Our intelligence indicated British forces lacked experience in urban warfare, that their coordination between arms was inadequate, that their tactical methods were unsuited for built-up area operations. Nishida examines the tactical reports, studies the casualty figures, analyzes the pattern of British advances. The evidence is undeniable but strategically catastrophic. British forces have developed urban warfare capabilities that exceed Japanese defensive capabilities, tactical coordination that surpasses Japanese organizational methods, professional competence that Japanese doctrine never anticipated. The British are employing combined arms tactics with genuine effectiveness, Nishida reports carefully. Artillery preparation followed by coordinated infantry armor assault, air support integrated with ground operations, engineer support for obstacle clearance. This represents systematic doctrine rather than improvised tactics. The explanation reveals British military development that Japanese intelligence consistently underestimated. British forces possess urban warfare doctrine specifically designed for Asian conditions, tactical coordination that maximizes their technological advantages, professional competence that transforms numerical superiority into tactical effectiveness. Lieutenant General Honda Masaki, commanding 33rd Army, observes British operations from his defensive positions in central Mandalay. Honda's forces face British assault teams that demonstrate tactical sophistication, technical competence, professional coordination that Japanese defensive planning never anticipated. The British fight differently than they fought in 1942, Honda tells his divisional commanders. In the retreat to India, they were disorganized, tactically conservative, professionally inadequate. These forces demonstrate competence, coordination, tactical innovation that we never encountered before. Honda's observation carries particular weight because of his experience with British forces during the original Japanese conquest of Burma. If Honda acknowledges British tactical evolution, Japanese doctrine must account for British capabilities that exceed previous assessments based on earlier campaigns. The acknowledgement requires fundamental revision of Japanese assumptions about British military capability in Asian warfare. British forces have developed operational methods that maximize their advantages while minimizing Japanese advantages in defensive warfare. Major General Tanaka Shinichi, commanding 18th Division, encounters British forces during the defense of Mandalay's government quarter. Tanaka's formations suffer unexpected casualties when British urban warfare tactics prove more effective than Japanese intelligence predicted. British assault capabilities exceed Japanese defensive planning assumptions. The British coordinate their urban assaults with professional competence, Tanaka reports to Corps headquarters. Their infantry armor cooperation is effective, their artillery support is accurate and timely. Their engineer support enables rapid obstacle clearance. They demonstrate urban warfare capabilities our planning never anticipated. Tanaka's report confirms observations from Japanese commanders throughout Mandalay. British urban warfare capabilities prove more formidable than Japanese intelligence predicted, more effective than Japanese planning anticipated, more professional than Japanese doctrine assumed. The pattern of Japanese surprise at British competence reveals systematic Japanese intelligence failures. Japanese assessments of British military capability, based on 1942 campaign experience, consistently underestimate British tactical development, operational innovation, professional improvement over 3 years of warfare. Colonel Matsumura Hiroshi, commanding Japanese forces in Mandalay's industrial district, provides detailed analysis of British urban warfare methods based on direct combat experience. Matsumura's forces engage British assault teams repeatedly, understand British capabilities through sustained contact, observe British tactical methods through extended urban combat. The British employ urban warfare tactics that demonstrate genuine understanding of built-up area operations, Matsumura reports. They clear buildings systematically, coordinate supporting fires effectively, employ engineer assets intelligently. They've developed competence in urban warfare that equals or exceeds our own capabilities. Matsumura's assessment reveals British adaptation to urban warfare that exceeds Japanese expectations. British forces have developed tactical methods specifically designed for Asian urban conditions, operational procedures that maximize effectiveness in built-up terrain, coordination systems that integrate all combat arms effectively. The adaptation suggests systematic British military development rather than random tactical innovation. British urban warfare doctrine represents organized innovation, structured training, deliberate improvement that produces genuine competence in conditions that previously favored defensive forces. General Kawamura Saburo, commanding Japanese forces in northern Burma, receives intelligence reports of British performance in Mandalay that contradict Japanese assumptions about British tactical limitations. British urban warfare competence exceeds Japanese intelligence estimates across all categories of built-up area operations. British forces demonstrate urban warfare capabilities that our planning never anticipated, Kawamura concludes. Their tactical coordination equals or exceeds our own capabilities in terrain we considered favorable to defensive operations. They've achieved tactical superiority in conditions that previously guaranteed defensive advantages. Kawamura's assessment represents senior Japanese recognition that British military capabilities in urban warfare equal Japanese capabilities in specific areas. British tactical development eliminates Japanese advantages that previous campaigns assumed were permanent. The recognition requires comprehensive revision of Japanese assumptions about urban warfare superiority. Japanese forces cannot assume British opposition will fail in built-up area operations. Japanese planning must account for competent British urban warfare, effective British combined arms coordination, professional British military performance in Asian urban conditions. Prime Minister Suzuki Kantaro receives reports of the fall of Mandalay from his military advisors in Tokyo. The reports describe British capabilities that contradict Japanese assumptions about European tactical inferiority in Asian urban warfare, European organizational inadequacy for complex operations, European professional incompetence in tropical conditions. How can British forces achieve success in urban warfare that should favor defensive forces? Suzuki asks General Umezu Yoshijiro, Chief of the Army General Staff. Our forces are experienced in Asian urban conditions, trained for built-up area operations, familiar with Mandalay's defensive advantages. How can British forces overcome defensive positions that should guarantee Japanese success? Umezu has prepared for this question, but the answer challenges fundamental Japanese beliefs about defensive superiority in urban warfare, Japanese tactical supremacy in Asian conditions, Japanese organizational excellence in built-up area operations. The British have developed sophisticated urban warfare doctrine, Umezu explains carefully. Their forces receive extensive training for built-up area operations. Their equipment is optimized for urban warfare. Their tactics are designed specifically for coordinated assault operations in Asian urban conditions. The explanation suggests that British military development in urban warfare exceeds Japanese military development in specific areas. British specialization in combined arms operations represents tactical innovation that Japanese forces must acknowledge and counter. Suzuki cannot easily accept that British innovation exceeds Japanese innovation in urban warfare. The admission would contradict Japanese ideology about defensive superiority in built-up areas, Japanese tactical supremacy in Asian conditions, Japanese organizational excellence in urban operations. Instead, Suzuki blames temporary setbacks, intelligence failures, inadequate Japanese preparation. British success must result from Japanese mistakes rather than British competence, Japanese weaknesses rather than British strengths. But the evidence accumulates from multiple sectors, multiple commanders, multiple engagements. British forces consistently demonstrate urban warfare capabilities that exceed Japanese intelligence assessments. British tactical performance in Mandalay contradicts Japanese assumptions about European military quality in Asian urban conditions. Lieutenant General Katamura Shihachi, commanding Japanese forces in central Burma, provides tactical analysis of British urban warfare operations based on extensive combat experience. Katamura's forces engage British assault teams throughout Mandalay, understand British capabilities through sustained urban combat, observe British tactical evolution through extended operations. The British demonstrate urban warfare competence that equals our own capabilities, Katamura tells his regimental commanders. They understand built-up terrain, employ proper assault tactics, coordinate their supporting fires effectively. They've achieved tactical parity in conditions we assumed would guarantee defensive superiority. Katamura's assessment confirms observations from Japanese commanders throughout Burma. British urban warfare capabilities represent systematic military development rather than random tactical success. The systematic development suggests British military organization produces competent urban warfare specialists, effective combined arms doctrine, professional performance in built-up area conditions. British military education creates capabilities that Japanese intelligence consistently underestimated. Major General Yamamoto Kyohei, commanding 15th Division, encounters British forces during the final defense of Mandalay Fort. British forces demonstrate urban assault capabilities that force Japanese tactical modifications, operational adjustments, strategic reassessments. British urban assault operations show genuine tactical understanding of built-up area warfare, Yamamoto notes in his operational assessment. Their forces coordinate infantry armor cooperation effectively, integrate artillery support intelligently, employ engineer assets professionally. They've developed capabilities our intelligence never predicted. Yamamoto's observation reveals British military competence in urban warfare that exceeds Japanese expectations. British forces have developed tactical methods specifically designed for Asian urban conditions, operational procedures that maximize effectiveness in built-up terrain. The development eliminates Japanese assumptions about defensive superiority in urban warfare. British forces demonstrate tactical competence, operational sophistication, professional performance that Japanese planning consistently underestimated. Colonel Fujiwara Iwaichi, commanding Japanese forces defending Mandalay's Royal Palace, analyzes British urban warfare performance during the final assault operations. British forces demonstrate combined arms capabilities that exceed Japanese expectations for forces operating in unfamiliar urban terrain. Even in complex urban terrain, British forces demonstrate professional competence, Fujiwara reports. Their urban warfare tactics are sophisticated. Their coordination is effective. Their assault methods overcome defensive advantages we assumed were decisive. They've achieved capabilities our intelligence never anticipated. Fujiwara's assessment confirms that British urban warfare competence extends across all terrain types and operational conditions. British combined arms capabilities represent systematic military development rather than isolated tactical innovation. The consistency suggests systematic British military development rather than random tactical success. British urban warfare doctrine represents organized innovation, structured training, deliberate improvement that produces genuine military competence in conditions that previously favored defensive forces. What Japanese army commanders said when British forces retook Mandalay was initially nothing. Said nothing officially because acknowledging British urban warfare competence would require admitting Japanese intelligence failures, Japanese planning inadequacies, Japanese tactical limitations in terrain that Japanese doctrine assumed guaranteed defensive superiority. But privately, in secure communications and personal records, Japanese commanders recorded their observations. Kimura wrote, "British urban warfare capabilities exceed our intelligence assessments. They demonstrate tactical competence our planning never anticipated." Honda noted, "British forces employ professional urban warfare tactics that achieve genuine operational effectiveness. They coordinate combined arms operations with competence we never encountered in 1942. Tanaka observed, "British military development in urban warfare exceeds British military capability during the retreat to India. They've adapted their methods to achieve tactical superiority in built-up area operations." Katamura concluded, "British urban warfare operations demonstrate tactical sophistication that our doctrine must acknowledge and counter. They've developed capabilities our planning underestimated. The observations were accurate, but professionally uncomfortable." Acknowledging British urban warfare competence would require questioning Japanese assumptions about defensive superiority in built-up areas, Japanese tactical supremacy in Asian urban conditions, Japanese organizational excellence in urban operations. Suzuki's reaction to reports of Mandalay's fall revealed the political difficulty of acknowledging enemy competence in terrain that Japanese doctrine claimed as naturally favorable to defensive forces. How can British forces succeed in urban warfare that should guarantee defensive victory? Suzuki demanded repeatedly. The question assumed Japanese superiority rather than examining British capability. The assumption prevented accurate assessment of British military development in urban warfare, realistic evaluation of British combined arms capabilities, effective adaptation to British tactical innovation in built-up area operations. Japanese ideology interfered with Japanese military analysis. General Umezu Yoshijiro, Chief of the Army General Staff, attempted to provide realistic assessments of British capabilities despite political pressure to minimize enemy competence in urban warfare. Umezu's intelligence summaries acknowledged British urban warfare effectiveness while attempting to maintain Japanese confidence. British forces demonstrate unexpected competence in urban warfare, Umezu reported carefully. Their combined arms capabilities exceed our intelligence estimates. Our tactical methods must account for British competence that proves more formidable than anticipated in terrain we assumed favored defensive forces. Umezu's assessment represented professional military analysis constrained by political requirements. Acknowledging British competence in urban warfare was militarily necessary but politically difficult because it contradicted Japanese assumptions about defensive superiority in built-up areas. The constraint prevented effective Japanese adaptation to British capabilities. Japanese tactical development suffered because political ideology interfered with military analysis, preventing realistic assessment of enemy capabilities in urban warfare. Post-war examination revealed the extent of Japanese intelligence failures regarding British urban warfare capability. British combined arms development represented systematic innovation that Japanese intelligence never detected, never analyzed, never anticipated. British urban warfare doctrine evolved through careful study of European urban combat experience, systematic analysis of Asian urban warfare requirements, organized development of effective combined arms methods. British military education produced competent urban warfare specialists, effective coordination in built-up conditions, professional performance in complex terrain. Japanese intelligence, influenced by outdated assessments based on 1942 campaign experience and ideological assumptions about European tactical inferiority in Asian conditions, consistently underestimated British military development in urban warfare. Japanese assessments assumed British forces would remain tactically inferior in built-up area operations, organizationally inadequate for complex urban warfare, professionally incompetent in Asian urban conditions. The assumptions proved catastrophically wrong when Japanese forces encountered British formations that demonstrated tactical sophistication in urban warfare, operational competence in combined arms operations, professional skill in built-up area conditions that Japanese planning never anticipated. What Japanese army commanders ultimately said about British urban warfare capabilities, when they finally acknowledged the truth in post-war memoirs and interviews, was that British military development in urban warfare exceeded Japanese military development in specific areas that proved tactically decisive. British operations in Mandalay represented innovation that Japanese forces couldn't counter effectively, competence that Japanese intelligence couldn't predict accurately, effectiveness that Japanese doctrine couldn't anticipate properly, and terrain that Japanese ideology claimed as naturally favorable to defensive forces. But acknowledging British superiority in urban warfare was politically impossible, professionally uncomfortable, ideologically unacceptable during the war. So Japanese commanders said little officially, while privately recording observations that confirmed British military achievements in built-up area operations. The silence spoke volumes about Japanese inability to acknowledge enemy innovation in urban warfare, to learn from enemy success in combined arms operations, to adapt Japanese methods to match enemy capabilities in terrain that Japanese doctrine assumed guaranteed defensive superiority. British forces retook Mandalay because British military development in urban warfare exceeded Japanese intelligence assessment in areas that proved tactically decisive. British systematic innovation in combined arms operations provided capabilities that Japanese traditional defensive methods couldn't counter effectively. What Japanese army commanders said about British urban warfare competence, when they finally admitted the truth, was that British organization in combined arms operations exceeded Japanese organization in specific areas that mattered most for urban warfare. But they said it too quietly, too late, too privately to change the defensive methods that British competence had already rendered obsolete. British success in Mandalay represented military innovation in urban warfare that Japanese forces couldn't match quickly enough to matter. British systematic development in combined arms operations provided the foundation for British tactical effectiveness, British operational success, British demonstration that Japanese defensive superiority in urban conditions wasn't universal or inevitable. The fall of Mandalay marked the end of Japanese illusions about defensive superiority in Asian urban warfare. The collapse of Japanese assumptions about European tactical inferiority in built-up area operations. The recognition that British military development had achieved capabilities that Japanese forces could no longer counter effectively with available resources and existing methods.